So every day, tons of people are moving to Austin, Texas, and it is super exciting, but the market is so hot that it's getting a lot of people bummed and really disappointed at the whole buying process here. So today, I want to pull back the curtain and show you what it's really like to buy a home in Austin right now. I have this conversation with people a lot, so I thought I would just put it out there so everyone knows what it's really like to buy a home in Austin. And this is going to sound like an exaggeration or hyperbole, or I'm trying to scare everyone away because I don't want you to move here. That is absolutely not the case. Everything that I'm going to share with you today, I have experienced personally with my clients trying to put in bids to buy a home in Austin. Hi, I'm Tiffany Moore. I'm a realtor right here in Austin, Texas, and I talk to a lot of people who are moving out here from all over the country, and they're somewhat familiar with the way the Austin market is right now, that it's crazy, but they don't really know the nitty-gritty of it. So today I'm going to set some expectations on what you can expect when you're buying a home in Austin. And this is going to sound very alarmist, it's going to sound exaggerated or hyperbole. I promise you that these are all real instances that I have experienced while helping my clients buy a home in Austin. So I'm just trying to be straight with you and tell you what it's really like to buy a home right now. First, you need to know that the market is hot. If you didn't know that already, now you know. So in COVID, when COVID hit, the market kind of exploded around April or May. People figured out they don't have to live downtown or they don't have to live close to their office anymore, so they're free to live wherever they want in Austin. Also, people were just spending so much time in their home and they could not take it anymore. They needed somewhere else to live, whether it's more space or less space to clean, whatever it is. People were just tired of living where they were at. And 3, interest rates fell significantly to try and boost up the economy. So these 3 factors contributed to Austin's real estate market exploding in 2020. And then just since January of 2021, like literally January 1st, it just exploded even worse. So whereas in September, October of last year, we were seeing multiple offers on houses, maybe 10 to 15 offers per house, in January 2021, we were seeing 40 offers, 50 offers, 60 offers for houses. So that is what's going on in the market right now. That's why it's difficult for buyers. It was always a seller's market in Austin for like the past several years. Now it is like a seller's market on steroids. So these are some of the things that we're seeing in the market right now. I want you to know what they are so that when you see them coming, you're just like, oh yeah, I knew this was happening. You don't have to like it. You just have to accept that this is the reality right now. So let's talk about open houses. Not every listing agent is having open houses for the homes they're selling right now. 1, because of COVID, just trying to reduce the people in and out of a home. 2, because they really don't have to. Like I just said, it's a seller's market, so whether they put the house as an open house for the weekend, they're still gonna get multiple offers and people are still gonna buy it. They no longer have to really like generate interest in the home. If there is an open house for the home, expect to wait outside for a while for it to be your turn to get in. Mostly because of COVID, because we're trying to reduce the number of people in the home at one time. They'll usually let about 1 group in at a time. They'll spend about 5 or 10 minutes in, then they'll rotate another group. So you may pull up to an open house and see 10, 15 groups of people waiting in line to get in the open house. This is a possibility. Another reason that there's so many lines for people to get in is just the craziness of the market and how busy it is. So the second thing to expect in Austin is multiple offers. If you find a house that you like, a lot of other people are going to like that house as well, and they're going to put in offers in it. So it used to be, 4 or 5 years ago that you'd see a house you like, you put in an offer, maybe a little bit below what they're asking for, you negotiate with the seller and you come to an agreement. That is no longer how you buy a house in Austin. So last year and even the year before, we were seeing multiple offers on houses, but it was more like, okay, maybe 3 or 4 offers, and then maybe 10 or 12, maybe 15 offers. I'm serious, just in January of this year, we're seeing 40, 50, 60, 90 offers on homes. So with that being said, you need to treat your offer like a silent auction. You only get one shot. You only get one shot to put your highest offer, the highest price, and your best offer, meaning the best terms that you can possibly put forward for the seller that meet your needs. So, if you can't pay cash for a house, then that doesn't need to be part of your offer. So we talked about how Austin is a crazy seller's market. Listing agents are not necessarily holding open houses because they don't have to. Houses are just generating multiple offers, and I'm not even talking about like beautiful houses. A lot of these houses are kind of investment opportunities. They may be in the 275 up to 450 range. They may need kitchen renovation, bathroom, flooring, stuff like that. So we're not even talking turnkey houses. We're talking houses that you're going to need to put a lot of cash into, and then put a lot of cash into once you get into it to make it the way you want it. And when you find the house that you want to make an offer on, it's only going to be on the market for about 3 to 4 days before there's an offer deadline. So most agents are going to expect multiple offers, and they're going to set an offer deadline. And they usually keep the house open for a weekend. So they'll put it on the market Wednesday or Thursday, leave it on the market through Sunday or Monday, and offers are usually due Sunday or Monday. The seller will make their decision that day or the next day, and then the listing agent will tell everyone, hey, you either did or didn't get the offer. So with that being said, when you find a house that you really like, you've got to go see it that day or the next day, figure out if you want to put an offer in, strategize with your agent about how much, what the terms are, all that good stuff, and get it in as soon as possible, or at least before the offer deadline. Just a couple weeks ago, I was helping a client put in an offer. The listing agent had in the listing information that the offer deadline was Sunday at noon. So we were getting our information together, we were about to put in the offer, and I double checked the listing again, and all of a sudden the house was already pending with another buyer. And we hadn't even reached the date or time for the offer deadline. So FYI, offer deadline is a good guideline, but it is not the be all end all. You want to get that offer in as soon as you can. And if your offer is good enough and you're one of the first or second ones to put it in, the listing agent might just accept your offer. The seller might just realize, okay, this is what we want. We don't want to go through all the rigmarole of looking at all the offers and comparing everything. We like this one and we just want to get it over with. So definitely try and get your offer in as soon as possible, but for sure before the advertised offer deadline. And if you find a house that you really like that's been sitting on the market for 2 to 3 weeks, there's probably a reason for that. There are no deals, there are no diamonds in the rough, there are no gems that no one has discovered. Those just don't exist in this market anymore. So just go in with open eyes. If you see a house that just looks perfect, but it's been sitting on the market for 2 or 3 weeks, there's probably a reason why. So here is a quick tip when you are dealing with a multiple offers scenario. Find out what's most important to the seller. Sometimes they need to lease the house back from you once you buy it. A lot of times they are building their own house and it won't be ready for a few months. Sometimes they just need a week to move and get all their stuff out of the house. Is it a quick close that they're looking for? Is it positive terms that they're looking for? Contact the listing agent and find out what's important to them and what's going to help you make the sweetest possible offer you can for the seller. So like we just talked about, asking to find out what are the important things that the seller is looking for their offer. If one of them is a quick close, you are going to need to use a local lender. That's the third thing that you need to do when you're trying to buy a house in Austin. Your agent probably has 1 or 2 local lenders that they work with a lot. That's because the agent can get a hold of the lender. A lot of times these negotiations are going on Friday night at 9 o'clock, Saturday night at 7 o'clock, Sunday morning at 10 a.m. And I promise you, from my personal experience and my agent friends' personal experience, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, they are not going to answer our calls or our texts or our emails at those times, even though we desperately need to get paperwork together, to get an answer, to find some information to make sure this offer goes through. So that's one of the biggest reasons that you need to use a local lender. One is just the communication factor. 2, these local lenders they're part of the Austin real estate community. We know each other personally, we know them face to face. I have everyone's personal text and email that I work with. So these people, think of them like a small business versus a big corporation. They have a reputation in the community. They're generating their own business. They're not just relying on a big name like Bank of America. And they know that if they deliver for you or for your agent, we're going to refer them to our friends and our partners for future deals. Another reason that you want to use a local lender is they usually have access to better appraisal pools. So we're going to talk about appraisal issues later on in this video, but just keep that in mind that a local lender is going to be able to, they have access to better appraisal pools, so it's more likely that the home is going to appraise at or closer to the sales price. Okay, here's the 4th thing that you need to know about buying a home in Austin, and it hurts and it sucks and I hate it, but it is reality, so we just need to accept it and move on from there. you are going to lose out on a handful of houses before our offer sticks, before we make an offer on a home that's accepted. And by a handful of houses, I mean like maybe 5 to 10. So we may put in 10 offers before we get one that is accepted by the seller. That's just the way the market is right now. Unless you are coming in paying cash 100%, you don't care what the house appraises for, you can settle in 2 weeks, meaning like you can close in 2 weeks, and you want to pay like way above the listing price, then yeah, you may get your offer accepted on the first shot. I hope so. Good for you. That would be amazing. But unfortunately, there's not a lot of buyers have that power right now. And even if they do, there may be someone who comes in on top of your super offer and offers another $10,000 and, you know, gives away their dog in the deal too. You never know. Every time I think I've put in like a super competitive offer, there's no way anyone could top it, they just blow you out of the water with either the price or the terms or the conditions, something crazy in the offer that your buyer just cannot compete with. So expect to lose out on a handful of homes. And it's really hard because when you find a home that you love, you have like an emotional connection with it. You love it. You can see yourself living there. It's awesome. And then you put your offer in, you get super excited, and then we don't get it. And then we put another one in, and then we don't get it. And this happens a lot. But you just gotta develop some thick skin. We gotta pick ourselves up and move on and just find the next house, put in the next offer. We're going to get one eventually. Just you've got to know ahead of time that we are probably not gonna get the first one. Fifth thing that you need to know about buying a home in Austin right now is you're gonna pay way more than you think you need to pay for this home. I was talking to a friend of mine recently, and she said, you know, it's almost like you need to be embarrassed about the amount of money you're offering for this home to even get your offer accepted. And I thought that's really accurate, because I hate telling my clients, I know that this house is listed at 310, we're gonna have to offer 400 to make a competitive offer. I hate that, and it sounds absurd. I know how absurd it sounds. It sounds crazy. And it takes a few failed offers for people to actually believe me and start making competitive bids for houses, because it's just really hard to believe and to accept. But the sooner you can accept that, the better. Like I said, you don't have to like it, but you just have to accept it. So expect to pay whatever the listing price is. I pretty much consider the listing price irrelevant because it's going to sell for way more than that. And a lot of realtors are now setting the listing price pretty low to drive up competition and generate multiple offers for houses. So a listing price, I don't really care what it is. Instead, what I do is look at the homes that have sold recently in the neighborhood. What did they sell for overall? What was the total price? What was the price per square foot? What's the condition of that home versus the one that you're going to buy? And then we add a bunch of money on top of that. So the market is moving and changing weekly. So whatever homes have sold in the past 30 days, they're a good indication of what a reasonable offer would be on the house that you want to buy today. But in those few weeks, the market has already grown. So every house that we put an offer on, it's a new game. There are no trends. It's just this one house. So what I'm trying to say is the listing price is a good indicator of the ballpark you should be in, but you should plan to spend a lot more money if you want to put in a competitive price for your house. What I like to tell my clients is, at the end of the day, how much do you want to pay for this house? Forget about how much it's worth. Forget about the appraisal, if we can. We'll talk about that in a minute. At the end of the day, how much do you want to spend for this house? And then maybe add a big stack of money on top of that. That's going to give you a competitive offer. Okay, so now we're going to talk about appraisals. This is the sixth thing that you need to be aware of when buying a house in Austin. So we just talked about how you're going to have to offer a lot more money on top of the listing price to get the bid, because there are multiple offers. The seller's going to pick the sweetest deal. You want that to be yours. A lot of times that means coming in at a really high price. So the risk with that is, unless you're paying all cash or a really good chunk of cash, like unless you're putting like 50% or more down on the house, the appraisal is going to be a big factor in your buying power. So what that means is, let's say you are even putting down 20% on a home and your bank says, cool, I will lend you 80% of the value of this home. And you say, cool, I found this house for 300. I offered 400 and I got the bid. Awesome. And so now your bank is going to kind of say, okay, we're going to appraise it and we're going to see if it's worth what you want to pay for it, because we're only going to offer you 80% of what it is worth. So the bank comes out and hopefully they appraise it at 400. If they do, awesome, everyone wins, it's great. If not, let's say they appraise it for, 385, then they're going to give you 80% of 385. And you've got to make up that difference between the 385 and the 400 at the closing table in cash. So the sellers know this. They know that, great, you can offer whatever you want, and maybe you're pre-approved for like $500,000 and you're only offering 400, but they want to know that if the bank doesn't appraise it, are you still going to come to the table and buy this house? Because at the end of the day, one of the biggest things for sellers is time. They want to be done with this house and get your money in their pocket as soon as possible. So if they go through this process and we get to the appraisal, which usually happens like a week or two before you close, and then all of a sudden you back out because the appraisal is too low, they are not going to be very happy with that. They much rather want to go with someone who either, one, doesn't really care what the appraisal is, or two, is willing to bring extra cash to the table to make up for that appraisal gap. There's a form in Texas where you can say you waive your right to back out of the contract if the appraisal is low, no matter what the appraisal comes back at. You're basically saying, I don't care what the house appraises at, I'm still going to come to the table and I'll make up the difference. That is for people who are putting down a lot of money for the home, or they have a lot of cash reserves where maybe they're only putting down 5 or 10%, but they could put down a lot more if they need to. So there's a second part of that form that says, I will come to the table and make up the difference if the appraisal comes back low, as long as it's at X or above. So in the example we just talked about, you buy the house for 400, you could easily say, I will still come to the table and bring the extra cash as long as the appraisal comes back at 375 or above, meaning you'd have to bring that extra like 25 to the table if the appraisal is low. If without this form, you have no chance of having your offer accepted. This form is one of the biggest selling points to the sellers, because they know, their listing agents know, that there's a possibility the house might not appraise, and that under the contract you have a right to back out if that happens. So this form waives that right, and you say, hey, don't worry, seller, I'm still going to come to the table even if the appraisal is low. Without this form, you don't have a shot at winning a house. So we talked about the importance of using local lenders and how they have access to better appraisal pools. This is the big reason why. Better appraisal pools, they know what the market is doing, they're familiar with what's been happening in Austin, they know what it takes to get the house to appraise, and they can compare other houses appropriately, versus someone who lives in Kentucky, doesn't know what's going on in the market, is just looking at pictures in the MLS and making their decision from there. Local appraisers, the local pools are here and they're local, and so their appraisals are going to be better, meaning you probably don't have to come out of pocket as much, and you have a better chance of getting the house that you want. So the seventh thing to think about when you are buying a house in Austin right now is you may not be able to live in the neighborhood that you want. You may have this dream of living, in South Austin and walking everywhere and going to the coffee shops and the breweries and the restaurants and, riding your bike to the trail, and life is amazing. And that sounds awesome. But the market is moving so fast that may not be a reality for your budget. So just something to be aware of. A lot of people want to live in the cool areas of Austin. And by cool, that's what I mean. I mean the stuff that you see in TV, in the movies, in the magazines, all that stuff on why Austin is hot right now. If your budget doesn't allow for that, we just have to accept that and find you a house in another awesome neighborhood that you can afford. So basically the rule of thumb is the further you get from the city, the more affordable houses are per square foot. So that may be something to think about. How far away are you comfortable being from the city, and what will your budget allow? At the end of the day, you really just have to be honest with yourself about what is important to you and what your budget is. So if good schools are important to you, then living within the city of Austin is probably not the best place to live anyway. The really good schools are on the west side of town, out in Lakeway, the Bee Cave area. Really the nicer homes are where the good schools are going to be. Also in the new construction neighborhoods, more to the north, like Round Rock, Cedar Park, Leander, Georgetown, Liberty Hill, those are where the good school districts are as well, and those are a little bit further removed from the city. So I talked to a lot of families who are moving out here. They really want a good school district, but they also want to be in the cool Austin areas where they can walk to the coffee shops and the restaurants and all that stuff. And I just have to be straight with them and let them know, like, cool, we can do one or the other. We can pick, do you want the really good schools, or do you want the area where you can walk and do all the fun, cool Austin-y stuff? Okay, the 8th thing to know about buying a house in Austin right now is the popularity of the price ranges. So right now, the price ranges of $350 to $500 are number one. That's the sweet spot where everyone is looking to buy right now. It's also the spot where a lot of investors are looking to buy, especially in that $300 to $450 range, or I'm sorry, $350 to $450. So one, because that's the most popular, that's where the most competition is going to be just volume-wise. More people are going to be competing with you for those homes. Also though, when you're talking about investors buying those homes, they are usually coming in with a lot of cash. They usually don't care what the appraisal is, like I mentioned before, because they're coming in with a lot of cash. They're okay with houses that need to be updated and upgraded, and they don't really care what neighborhood it's in. So they're not as picky as you as far as the house, because they're not attached to a neighborhood, they're not attached to a school zone. That means they can put in a bunch of different offers in different neighborhoods and compete with you for like every other one that you're trying to put in an offer in. So FYI, that is the most popular price range and it's the most competitive, but it's also the most competitive because of the other buyers in that price range, which are the investors that have a lot of cash. So here is a quick tip if you're looking at this price range and even some of the higher ones. There are companies out there that will basically give you a mortgage behind the scenes so that you can pay cash for a home. So they'll lend you the money so you can make a cash offer for your house. Cash is king wherever you're at. It's especially true when you're buying a house because one, cash is for sure. I have cash in my hand. I don't need to wait for a bank to approve me for a loan and do their appraisal and all that stuff. I have the cash in my hand right now. I can give it to you. We can close in 2 weeks, done deal. That is preferable for a seller because like we talked about, sellers are worried about the timing. They just want to make sure it's done and they can move on with their life and put your money in their pocket. So if you have any of these companies, I have a few of them. If you've heard of them, check them out. See if that's something that would work for you. Because if you are only able to put down 5 or 10% right now, it's going to be very hard for you to make a competitive offer and buy a house because of the cash is king, also because of the appraisal issue that we just talked about a few minutes ago. So what happens is folks that I work with that are putting down 5 or 10%, I'll ask them just like, how much cash do you have to put for your down payment, your closing costs, and if the appraisal comes back low? And then we strategize from there on each house. Okay, for this one, let's put down X amount of cash and let's reserve this much for in case the appraisal comes back low. And that will only make you out of pocket, 50 grand in a worst case scenario situation. So every house we're strategizing with based on how much cash you have on hand to buy this house. So obviously the more cash you have on hand, the more competitive your offer can be and the more likely it is that you're going to be able to get a house sooner rather than later. So if you're able to just put down $400 cash, that would solve a lot of those problems. Not everyone can do that, obviously. That's not really reality. But if you find one of these companies that will give you, a mortgage behind the scenes and give you the cash so you can make your cash offer, that would be an awesome choice if otherwise you were only going to put down 5 or 10%. So the second most popular price range is $250 to $350. That price range is pretty much like going out the window. You really can't get anything worthwhile in Austin below $250. I want to say closer to $400 now. So the houses that you're going to get around $340, $350, they're going to need some work. So again, it kind of goes back to the issue of cash. How much cash do you have on hand? If you buy the house, like it's livable. There's nothing wrong with it. It's livable. It's just outdated. The carpet's probably old. The kitchen needs to be updated and so are the bathrooms. And you can do that over time, but that takes cash or some like kind of home renovation loan. But if you just moved into the house, you won't really be eligible for a home equity loan, especially if your appraisal came back lower than the asking price. So just something to think about. Closer to 400, 375, 400 is going to be the sweet spot for a home that you can kind of move into that doesn't need a lot of renovations right now. And the third most popular price range right now is 500 to 700. There is less competition in this price range just because it's more expensive. Obviously, more people can afford a lower price range, and the higher the price range gets, the fewer people can afford it. So that's just one reason why it's less popular. But also the same issues are happening in this price range as well. We're still getting multiple offers. Houses are still going for 10, 15% above asking price. It's just that maybe instead of 50 offers, maybe there's 20. So does that make a difference? It's still a crazy seller's market, but like I said, the more expensive you get and the higher up the price range, the less competition you're going to have. So now I want to switch gears real quick and talk about new construction. I really like new construction for that super popular price range of $350 to $500 because it allows us to kind of avoid this rat race of bidding on 40, 50 other offers for this house, having to pay way above asking price, having to have a lot of cash on hand. New construction solves a lot of those problems if your timeline is flexible. So I have another video coming out on new construction the next week or so I'm not going to dig into it today, but I just want to give you a heads up that you don't need a huge down payment for new construction. If you want to buy later on this year, and by that I mean like November, December 2021 or into spring of 2022, new construction is a great option for you. The only thing is new construction doesn't really allow for investors. So most new construction neighborhoods, the house that you buy either has to be your primary residence or your secondary home. It can't be an investment property. So just something to consider, new construction in the $350 to $500 price range. I love it because, like I said, you get out of that rat race. Plus you're buying a brand new home that you know for sure doesn't need a new roof or new HVAC or new water heater in the next 3 to 5 years. It already comes with an awesome home warranty, and you're in a brand new, beautiful neighborhood that usually has some really good schools and some cool shops and restaurants that are going to be opening around it soon. Now, new construction does usually come with a higher tax rate, so 2.7 to 3%, maybe higher than 3%. That's to pay for a lot of the infrastructure that goes in with new construction, a lot of the new schools, that good stuff. That tax rate will go down over the years as more people populate the neighborhoods, but over a few years, I mean like 7 to 10 years as they fill out the community. So those are kind of the pros and cons. Like I said, for that price range, I have been guiding a lot of people towards new construction if their timeline is flexible. If it's not flexible and you have to get to Austin immediately, then we've got to start making really competitive offers on those resale homes, way above the asking price, and deal with the appraisal issues and all that good stuff.